Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast, sponsored by the IBCA. We are a global podcast that shares the passion for the coaching profession. You will hear the stories of coaches from all around the world. We are covering the profession in game, outside of the game, and anything in between. As always, thank you for listening. We look forward to sharing the coaches' stories with you. On today's episode, we have Vern Turner, IHSA referee, college referee, some NBA work as well. We'll get into that as the journey goes, but also Kankakee Community College police officer. Vern, how are you this morning? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well, guys. Glad to be on, and thank you for having me.
So we like to start every episode with what we call the opening tip. It's kind of just our platform for our guests to kind of just tell our listeners about our journey. I'm going to be honest, Vern, as we talked about off the air, you may or may not know, you are the first referee that's ever been on our show. So I don't know if the coaches are booing or cheering or how they feel, but you want to just talk to us through your journey and how you got to where you are today?
Great. Well, my journey as far as playing basketball started in the confines of my mother's home and my best friend, one of my best friends, Isaiah Thomas' mother's home. Our parents would play cards and we would build basketball goals with Nerf balls. And from one hallway to the other hallway, just dunking and playing basketball. And then that vaulted to us both going to Our Lady of Sorrows Grammar School on the west side of Chicago. And our coach, Mr. Lee Johnson, was a very much a disciplinarian coach, and he was about team and showed us how to work together, and was a great mentor for the both of us. And then we went on to Dr. Martin Luther King Boys Club, where an official that he was a coach back then, Johnny Gage, he was our coach. Yeah, and back then, and he didn't play, and he always kept us in nice, good gear, and we were a very good basketball team. We were 33-0 and things of that nature. So we were really good. So I went from there, and then I became a basketball player at Providence St. Mills High School, that junction.
Johnny Gage was just refereeing a couple of my games last summer, and I think he finished at Garin as the coach, if I remember.
Yes. He finished at Gary, now he's officiating. I think he's pretty much retired, but he loves to officiate, and he's always working hard at it. So he works for me in one of those conferences I assign. So yeah, so Johnny Gage is a good guy, very good guy.
All right, so let's talk about like your time as a player and kind of your point of view now, looking at officials. When you were a player, what were you kind of looking for from officials? And then how do you think officiating's different from when you were playing to now? Obviously, some of the rules are different, style of play is different, but how do you think it's kind of evolved during that time?
Well, when I played, we couldn't say anything to the officials. Now the young players today, they feel as though they can ask questions, or in which I think they have the right to do that. But when I was playing, it was just yes, sir. Do what you have to do on the court. Listen to your coach. Um, there was a lot of violations called more so when I was playing. The ball handling skills that these guys have now, we had a lot of that, but we couldn't do it because those were violations that were called. The moves that they're making with the Euro step, we knew about that. We could do it, but we couldn't do it in the game because it had been called travel. So the game is, really went to another universe for as far as the players are concerned, and they're getting opportunities to really show a lot of things that they could do. But yeah, just loving the game and playing the game with several people that now played in the NBA or retired from the NBA. Isaiah Thomas, Mark McGuire, Skip Dillard, those guys. I playing with them on the West Side. You learned so much from those guys. Kevin Upshaw, and it was a very good time in my life. It was always fun. And that was the biggest part about basketball to me growing up. It was a lot of fun.
So interesting angle. You and I had kind of a little bit just touched on our careers outside of basketball, but You had talked about a little bit about your time as a police officer and for Kankakee Community College, but I think it's an interesting dynamic that I want to hit on, obviously, before we get into a lot of the NBA and the officiating stuff. But being an official and being a police officer, people may not see the tie-in, but the need for calm in situations that are escalating are definitely there. Do you feel like there's specific skills that, both careers have that maybe kind of help each other in a way?
Yes, I do. And I have also come up with the saying, it's the blood pressure rule. So a lot of situations in a basketball game and or a police situation, a high profile situation where there's a domestic involved, people blood pressures are very high at that time. And you as a police officer or as a official, you have to bring people down back to lowering their blood pressure, calmness, trying to control the situation. And you can use these tools in basketball and as an official and as a police officer. It's truly how you serve the people and how you serve the game, and you have to see things about to either occur as a police officer, you have to see things about to occur in a basketball game. And you need to, be prepared to take care of that business, when time comes.
So I know you train officials on the side. Do you think that that skill can be taught to someone? Kind of how to de-escalate or calm or lower blood pressures to a younger official as they kind of grow as an official?
Well, they have to see a lot of plays. They have to see a lot of situations. I think that because we have a shortage of officials in Illinois, I think that we are missing a part where a lot of younger officials, when I was a young official, I used to go watch my mentor, Keith McCullen was his name, and we go watch him work or watch our mentors work. Officials don't get that opportunity as much simply because they're working, because there's a shortage of officials. So, and on the other foot, the mentor doesn't get the opportunity because he or she is working, so to watch the younger officials work. So at some situations, we have young officials working with another young official, and they're not really grasping all the tools that they need to grasp to really pick this game up and serve it the right way, and but you have to invest in yourself if you're a young official. That's I tell all the young officials that I work with, you have to invest in yourself. All the AAU time that you're spending, the money that you're making AAU, you got to use that money to go to camps. You got to use that money to travel and go watch officials work that can really help you in this business. And it's very important, So I think investment in yourself and just really asking questions, getting a mentor that you can text or call after you had a game, had plays that happened in the game, and remembering those plays. If you kick the rule, make sure you don't kick a rule again. That same rule, especially, So all those different things matter, in the business of officiating in basketball on all levels.
So I want to talk to a little bit about your NBA experience, right? As a courtside administrator and what you do there. Maybe what does that like experience look like? Your role, what you're doing in the game, what you're helping out with to let our listeners know, and then how that translates into kind of you picking up things to make you a better referee, and what you're learning through those high level refs that do it night in and night out with some of the best athletes in the world.
Yes, so that is correct what you just said. I'm getting an opportunity to see the best basketball, the best officiating in the world that you could possibly see. And my job is to facilitate and communicate with the officials and Secaucus in New Jersey and bring it all together as a group, as a whole, to make plays what we want to do is speed the game up, get situations done in a good manner, and also to get the play right. It's all about getting plays right. One thing I always talk about from high school to pro, high school, you don't have replay, you don't have opportunity to go back once you blow that whistle. You got to have something. When you get to the college level, Division 1, Division 2, and in the NBA, you have replay, or you can go back, or now in the NBA, we have coaches challenges and things of that nature. So there's 16 different triggers that we use in the NBA that I would be a part of a situation that I'm dealing with the officials and or the replay center in Secaucus. And a simple thing like official has a foul, and it's at the 3-point stripe, so it's hard to determine if it was a 3 or 2. Because we talk about bang bang plays. Official has to look at the activity of the defender, and what did he what did he do, on to commit the foul, and so we give a verification to let them know via the replay center to let me know that it was a 2 or 3, and I just show it by showing mechanics, and those are things that are important. Your mechanics are very important that you use, and the tools that you use to speed the game up. And that's one of our main goals is to help speed the game up.
So I guess I'll follow up with then, we see it all the time on TV, right? And they're in there, and then now they've started to at least verbalize it right to the fans and things like that where they didn't before. But you know when they're all in there looking, and it looks like maybe the lead official takes the lead or whoever called it, right? And then tell us about the replay process itself and kind of what they're talking about, what they're looking at. Obviously, it's a huge advantage when you can slow it down, have a million different angles now, right?
Yeah.
Than they did. And then, I'll kind of have a second part of that too.
Yeah. So the key part is angles. So if I'm looking from the table perspective, I may see a different angle compared to the official that's the lead official that's opposite table, or the center officials that's opposite the table, or even the trail could be opposite the table. So when they come over, if it's a challenge by a coach, I'm on the side of the coaches. So they saw one thing and I probably saw what they saw. On the other side, the foul might have been committed and or not committed, but that's what they have those different cameras for. And that's the discussion, where the contact occurred, how much time we're putting on the shot clock, how much time we're putting back on the game clock, if any, if we need to make any adjustments with the and things of that nature. And what are we doing with the basketball? Are we shooting? Are we not shooting? Was it successful, unsuccessful challenge? And then I do a report at the end of the ball game and send it to my supervisors as well. And that's how it goes. The one thing I really like about situations for challenges and things of that nature, after it is decided what is going to happen, coaches don't gripe about it. Coaches don't talk about it anymore. They move on. And I think that if we ever get that situation in high school, we have to understand the professionalism that it takes to deal with something like this. And as we talk more, we'll talk about some of the things I really think that could really help uh, Illinois basketball, National Federation, high school basketball, things of that nature that we could be implementing. So yeah, so those are some of the things. It's one of the logistics we do when it's a challenge.
So I guess the second part of that is the referee's perspective, right? And they're adjusting to it. Now it's been in a long time, right? But how did they kind of work to get in the mindset of, I would feel like initially it'd be like, well, it's kind of undermining my call, right? But how did they work to get into the mindset of, okay, the game happens fast. This is what it is. I want to get the right call, because it was a big change, and it still puts you out there in the spotlight, right? When you make a call like that.
Yeah, we can't be arrogant as officials on no level. And we have to understand it's about getting the play right. That's the bottom line to all of this. Getting the play right and at the best possible timing that you can. Anytime, if the play is not correct, high school up into the NBA, we should be able to admit that we got it wrong. We're human. We just don't get all the plays correct all the time, and it's just it's a way of understanding the biggest part of the picture, just about getting the play right. And that's where you leave it. I want to get the play right, bottom line.
So we want to hit on that time as a head coach for yourself there, Vern. We don't want to leave that out.
Yeah.
So for our listeners that may not know, you are also a head coach yourself at your alma mater, Providence St. Mel. And, I'm just curious, that dynamic between a head coach and an official. You've obviously been an official for a long time, but do you think your time as a head coach kind of gave you some perspective in maybe where the head coach is coming from in some discussions, or, how they may be feeling about a call, or even just, obviously there's an abundance of pressure on the head, on the official, but also maybe in a big game, just the pressure and the emotions sometimes a head coach is facing. Did that experience as a head coach kind of give you some perspective to both sides?
It did. It did. And actually, I was a head coach in two sports. I was a head coach in football, but it was at a park district, Wales Cowboys. And we had the opportunity to go and beat Naperville and go down to Florida, and we finished fourth in the nation. So I want to throw a shout out to my Wales Cowboys because they were some very good young men. I had a group of different nationalities, man, and it was unbelievable. So I love those guys. And they're now all in their, my son is 28, so they're 20, 27 to 28 years old now. But going back to understanding, I had opportunity to play, coach, and then officiate. And to get all those different views, those three views for that one particular sport itself, that's covering it all. Because now as a player, you see what these players are trying to do and what they're attempting to do. And you attempted the same things. As a coach, the coach want to just they want you to hear them sometimes. They just want you to be a good listener as an official. So just listen to the coach, and what the feedback he's trying to give you sometimes instead of giving him more feedback, which escalates the blood pressure rule, but be a better listener as an official to a coach and vice versa. Sometimes the coaches don't want to hear what you have to say, but if they just listen to you as an official, they may get it, and it's a heated moment at that time. Later on, they said, you know what, I watched the video, I watched the game film, and you were right, or I still thought you were wrong, but we can agree to disagree sometimes. So yeah, so that opportunity to play all three, to do all three, gave me an opportunity to be a better understanding of the game, and respect the game even more as well. And I talked about serving the game, and when you serve the game in different aspects, you find yourself really having a passion and a love for the game. So that's how I base all of this on my passion and love, but understanding everybody that's involved in the situation. And as you see, I didn't count the fans in that because I don't listen to the fans. They're not part of the game. My table personnel, and I say my table as a crew chief, the table is a part of us now, even though they may be the home team's table and they want certain things to happen for the home team. We have to reel them in as officials as well and let them know that they're part of the table. I tell a lot of officials, there's nothing wrong with taking some candy to that table and bringing candy to the table, letting your table personnel know that you are a part of our team. And there's just certain things that you can do as an official, as a coach, to make things better for the game, for the kids. This game is for the kids. Sometimes we make it about ourselves, coaches and officials. And getting the opportunity to do all three, it helps me very well to understand that this is all about the kids, and I'm just want to serve the game correctly.
All right,
So
so moving on to what we call halftime adjustments. And I wanted to talk to you about, you brought it up about the learning process for referees and things they can do. I think it'd be beneficial for our listeners. Maybe some are reffing on the side, right? Because that's kind of a natural thing. They'll ref a youth game or whatever. And maybe they want to get interested because we obviously need more people coming into the profession and working towards being a really good referee. So what are some of the things you would suggest, you know, whether obviously you're doing stuff with referees, but things they can do, maybe not on the biggest scale, right? Because they're not there yet, right? They're not doing what you do, but they're trying to get into it and they're trying to learn and they're trying to be the best they can.
well, the first thing is meeting the eye test. This is talked about in the college level and in the NBA level, but it's not talked about at all in the high school level. I think we're going to get to that point, especially with younger officials. We want them to meet the eye test, being in shape, being prepared to officiate, learning the rule book before you get out there to start to officiate. Those things are important to me. Another part of meeting the eye test is your mechanics. You're telling a story. So you got to be convincing with your story at the table. The worst thing can happen is when the table's in, ref, who's the foul on? Two or three times till you got to turn around and report the foul again. Those things are very important to me as a clinician for the state, as an observer for the state, and as someone that assigns games for Illinois. So those things are important. Secondly, I think a lot of the younger officials, if your significant other is at the game, you should have them recording you. But once you're recorded, you should bring that to a mentor or someone that can see things that you need to work on. And not everything is negative. It's just there'll be some positive things you've done. I think that's important. Getting some video, watching game film of yourself. To watch someone else and say, I want to be just like that, you got to see yourself first. So I have at my camp, we have mirrors. We put mirrors up, and I think one is right behind me there, and it says violations. And you report a violation in that mirror, and you can see yourself reporting that violation. You can see if you're convincing with reporting that violation. As you travel down here, you guys can't see me here, but you can see me up here with the travel. So those different things matter as you escalate your game to the next level. So this is many of the few things that we could talk about when it comes to officiating. But those are some of the steps, the climbing steps the baby steps that you need to take first.
I don't know about you, Todd. I know we're going in the second half and we're going to really dig into mechanics of officiating, but I'm learning more in this episode than I think any
Right.
coach has had on in a
Exactly.
while.
So, Coach, look, can I follow something real quick, John?
Yeah, yeah.
He brought up mechanics. So, I don't know. One of my kind of guess pet peeves as a head coach is like when they call foul and they say it's one thing, but they use like the wrong mechanic. And maybe I just don't know well enough. Like maybe it's they call a block, but it
Yeah.
was a hold or whatever. Like, what is the process for that? Maybe give us a little, as coaches, an enlightenment of like different, like what the call's actually supposed to be. And you probably have better examples off the top of
Yes.
your head than I would.
So,
But
so a good
you know what I'm
example.
talking about? Like it's
Yes,
like,
I
oh, they
know
called this, but then they're like,
exactly
here comes.
what you're saying, Todd. A good example on a block charge play. Uh, an official goes and report, it says push, but it's a
Yes.
block charge play. And you either want to block or you want an offensive foul on that situation. And then when you ask the question as a coach, what did he or she do? He pushed them. But they're making a block charge play where it's bang, bang, where it's a hit right here. There's
Right.
a touch.
Yep.
There's no push. There's nothing there. So my job at my camp and my clinicians and people that support me at my camp, we are there to explain to officials before we even get to the court. So it's a level 2 camp, so they will officiate at my camp, but they are taught mechanics before they even go to the court. So we get them in the line and mirror, and they have a whistle, and they blow the whistle. Whoop, you got a pushing foul. You got a block charge foul, and we show the mechanics where they break it down, and we try to slow them down. When everybody's watching you and that whistle blows, it stops and you are the show. That's why I talk about telling the story. Now it's time to tell the story. It's going to be convincing. So we slow them down. So prime example, and we give them a 1, 2, 3 count. 1, 2, 3. Push. 1, 2, 3. Now what are we doing with the basketball? Out of bounds. Or are we shooting a penalty, the bonus? And now we're shooting 2 shots. So now we have officials still saying 1-and-1 sometime, but in high school we've gone to 2 shots. So it's just a story that you're telling, but at the same time, you got to be convincing with verbiage. So now, if you use your verbiage and words, the correct words, coaches may get it. Because a lot of times, if a coach see you report like you do, like you're saying, you're watching this official report and say, "No, that's not what happened. That is not what happened." So yeah. So the explanations are important. The verbiage, and that's just our job as clinicians and observers to try to get these younger officials or any official to speak and put it in the right perspective and just tell the story correctly. That's all we can do. But it's tough sometimes. Sometimes you get a little nervous and they may say travel when it was palmy, but it happens sometimes. But don't be afraid if you're nervous. Don't be afraid to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, my fault." We can say my fault. It's okay to say that. And a lot of times officials don't think that they can say that. Sorry about that. But we can't make too many mistakes because you don't want to hear my fault the whole game, right, coach?
Yeah, that's probably not a good thing. Right? That's probably not good for the ref that day.
Right. Exactly. So
So I
yes.
think to dig in, let's really talk about maybe the pregame preparation and obviously, NBA and high level colleges is possibly very different than, let's talk about maybe like a high school or a Division 3 or, that kind of level. So, you're getting ready for a game. What does that look like for you? Do you study the teams at all? Do you want any background on the teams? Do you want any background on your partners if you've worked with them before, if you haven't worked with them before? Maybe what does that look like for coaches and players and fans that may not know? What does that pregame look like?
Well, first off, your personal pregame is mine's is I want to listen to some good music on the way to the game. Before that, if I'm the crew chief, we all communicate with our other partners and let them know that if the game is scheduled for 7 p.m., see you guys around 6. We don't want to get there at 6:15, 6:30. Sometimes those things happen because of traffic. We want to get there at 6, get our mind and bodies right for whatever level of basketball is, high school, college, or whatever. So now we want as much information about the two teams that we're about to work hard for, because we're working hard for both teams. We're not working hard for the home team only or the visiting team only because we know the coach or things of that nature. We're working hard for both teams. So we want to know the coach's name. And more than likely, we want to know who's the number one player. Um, Point guards normally have the ball 80 to 90% of the game. Those are the things that from playing basketball, from coaching basketball, that I've picked up myself. Who's the leading scorer? Who's the leading rebounder? You know, just who just plays hard the whole game. Those things are important in basketball. Um, because you're about to work a game and you may call something on a player or that shoots the ball and sticks this leg out on the shot. And you may call something against that player, but that's that player's shot. You know what I mean? So those are the things you want to try to pick up and learn as soon as you can, as soon as possible. Now, one teaching tool that I have is in the first 4 minutes of a ball game, the official should know who's the best ball handler, who's calling all the shots out there, calling plays, who's the shooter. When you call Utah, coach, and that player runs baseline, the next time I'm going with that player after I'm the lead official because that's what the play is set up for. Those are the things that we as assigners slash clinicians, observers, we need to start teaching. Those are the things we need to start teaching. We can't harp on the player, official, young official making mistakes all the time. We have to have a teaching tool with those situations. So yeah, so it's important to pick up all those different traits. By the same token, you want to get information. Let's say these teams played a couple of weeks ago and they had altercation after the game. You want to know about that. You want to know who was involved. Now those players are back eligible to play if they were even ejected that game because they played a game within the week. So you want to be prepared to understand uh, those logistics of the game. If the coaches don't like each other, because there are sometimes where you have a situation where you need to bring both coaches to the table and explain to them, this is what we have. This is the situation. A1 pushed B1 into the stands. That is going to be an ejection on one, things of that nature. So I want both coaches to hear that. I want the table to hear that. So now they can say, well, you said this down there to him, Vern, and you didn't say this to me, things of that nature. So all those things are important for us information. And as officials, we always talk about in the pregame, we have our pregame. If you have some information that happened down on the other end of the court, and we're down on this end, we need to all get together. So it's been very important that officials come together, talk things out, send teams to the bench if we have those type of action plays throughout the ball game or situations. Um, we have officials sometimes say, we're going to watch 12 and 24. I've talked to both of them. So they kind of got a warning there. Now they want to play basketball. And my pregame, one of the key things I say, make basketball plays. When you start making things outside of basketball plays, then you involve in the officials. That's when we get involved. And of course, sportsmanship and let your game speak. You don't have to talk to each other. So we try to have a pregame where we're talking to the coaches and or the players so they can prepare for the adjustment of us as well as we have to adjust to how well they're playing or not how well they're playing. because we have to make adjustments throughout the whole ball game as officials, because there's just so much going on, and we're talking about bang bang plays. These kids are rolling, getting up and down the court, and you have to be dialed in the whole ball game. So that's what we do as officials. We have a good pregame with each other and kind of get as much information possible and talk about what we need to do as officials.
All right, so you let us right into it then, like mid-game adjustments or adjusting as the game's going on. This is kind of a multiple part question because I think there's lots of different pieces to it. First of all, what does it look like during the game, right? When you guys are having discussions in a timeout, right? Maybe or at halftime or whatever it may be of what you're seeing, kind of how the game is flowing, or how the game is evolving.
It's a communication skill that you have to have. We have to have a lot of eye contact throughout the ball game. We use mechanics to signal I got the last shot going into halftime. Those little simple things. But let's say we get into halftime and we've had some situations where I'll give a prime example. This past week I was working with some officials, very good officials, and I was the lead official. But what we would like as the trail official on post plays is the trail official picks up the feet. But I ended up picking up the feet as the lead official and had travel on A1 on the player we call A1 with the ball. So we talked about that at halftime, and the adjustment was made. So the trail official picked up the feet. Now he got to travel because we had a second one in the second half. So that was the communication skills that we used with each other. Now, through the course of the game, especially, and I've learned this from the NBA, under the last 2 minutes, it's a whole different ball game. And I would say in high school, under the last minute, it is a whole different ball game, especially a close ball game. A good close ball game is just different. One is, I want to know how many timeouts, and I'm going to communicate. And these are luxuries that we don't have to give the coach. They should have. You have some teams with 8 assistant coaches over there. You should know how many timeouts you have. But we want to give them that luxury and let them know, I know that you have one left. You know that you have one left now because I've told you. And the other team has 2, or vice versa. We want to know about the possession arrow. So when there's a timeout call, we get together, we talk about the possession arrow, we talk about the game clock, who's responsible for the clock being started when the game starts back in. We talk about the foul situation. Are we shooting the bonus? Which end? If not, are we shooting it both ways? Things of that nature. We may do a little coaching at this time. Okay, team may be down 5 with 12 seconds left. But they're going to foul right away, more than likely, because they're down 5. They need the ball. They need them to miss some free throws. So they'll probably foul. So let's get the first foul. We'll talk about those things. Let's not wait. And then now the kid pushes them into the stands and hurt them and things of that nature. So we talk about a variety of different things, especially when there's a good ball game and it's going down to at the minute mark and things of that nature. If we've given warnings, those things are now recorded in the scorebook. And that's if we, be it early in the game or be it late in the game. If we're given technical fouls, those are being recorded in the scorebook. But as a signer, I would like to know who was given the technical foul, if the kid was ejected, or things of that nature. So you do a report to the state, and you do a report to your assigner, and let he or she know what occurred throughout the ball game that was non-basketball play related, in a sense.
All right, so I'm gonna follow with a couple here. Like the flow of the game we talked about, right? Maybe I don't know. Like it's hard to change how you call things halfway, right? I would assume, but like, does that go into it too? Like, hey man, this game's getting physical. We might need to tighten it up a little bit because it's going to get out of hand, or you know what I mean? Like, every game's different. Some games they're letting them play. Some games maybe it's tighter, whatever it may be. And I guess maybe that goes into your pre-routine and watching and knowing what teams do. But how do you guys kind of handle that situation of kind of determining what the line is and maybe we get this back going?
A good example is down in Pontiac. So we may not have those teams throughout the whole season until we see them in Pontiac. you know. So now we don't know too much about the players slash the coach and how he is having his team play that night. Some teams may say, well, we got to get physical with this guy because he's averaging 20, 25 a game. So I want you to get physical with him. We as officials have to see those things. We have to read those situations. Um, One of our biggest issues as officials is hand checking this year out on the perimeter. There's a lot of hand checking going on. And I think me personally as an official make the mistake sometimes watching the NBA and knowing that those guys can handle that and watching a high school player and saying, I think he can handle it because he's handling the ball very well and he beats the person and getting past them. So I'm letting him play on through that. Now if he end up getting pushed or tripped, now I may have a whistle. That doesn't always work in my favor because sometimes he loses the ball. The player may lose the ball. But overall, I think that we have to communicate more as a group because we want to, as officials, we want to what we call like matching violations and matching calls in a sense. We want to try to do that as much as possible. So if we have a travel on one end of the court and then we have a similar move that's been done, we want to try to make sure that we look at that as a possible travel as well. So those are some of the things we talk about. I think it's just communicating. I think it's talking to the players before we even start calling fouls. We want to try to, even like with 3 seconds, you know, I try to get out of the lane, young fella. If I have a foul, I say, young fella, you're in the lane, look too long there. I say, okay, ref, I got you. And they say thank you. And we're just being a part of the game to make the game go smoother, better. And, because the people are there to see the kids or the players. They're not really there to see us, but we do have a big role and a big part in the game. And we have to make the adjustments as well with our officiating, as though the coaches, you all have to make adjustments as well.
Don't get me started on 3 seconds. Don't get me started on 3 seconds because I'm over there. So yeah, come on, get him out of there. Get him out of there. This girl's 6'2". Come on, get her out of there. But so now I want to go to after game, and I want to put it in a different light. The coaches, rating officials, evaluating them as well. I'm going to put it in. What should a coach be looking for in a referee to be fair in their evaluation? Obviously, it's hard to take emotion out of it sometimes, but I think this could be useful for coaches to be like, okay, am I looking at some certain key points of how at least they were going about it? Right? You may not always agree with calls. That's always going to happen most of the time. The coach never agrees with the call, anyways, right? But just to be fair in evaluating them, which in turn I feel can also help build better referees.
Yes. Well, the first thing I would say professionalism. That's that's one thing that you want to look at based on how this official carries him or herself when they enter your facility. So in most cases, even in high school, when you get there, there's a person there collecting the money, be it the social study teacher or whatever. How you present yourself to them, instead of just walking past them, speaking. The professionalism level is important from the beginning. Your appearance is important from the beginning. You can be casually dressed, but you shouldn't come to a game in your referee uniform. So those are some important pet peeves for an assigner like myself, a clinician like myself. So as you get into the ball game itself, one of the things that coaches should look for is the mechanics we talked about. So I want to officiate and hopefully you seen what I seen when I made a call. That's important to me. So when I have a foul and the player hand checks, and I say hand check, and you see the hand check, that's what you seen, and that's what I see. As a coach, you're going to say to me, well, can you watch the hand checks on the other end? And and it's just something that I've learned. And sure will, I'll take a look at it. Or you may say something else, and I'll say, I'll take a better look at it. So those are verbiage words that I try to teach and try to get officials to understand You don't say there ain't nobody handshake nobody on the other end. That's not what for you to say. It's just not. He's just asking you a general question. Can you watch the hand check on the other end? So that's important. The mechanics, the positioning on the court, and their signals, is important. And later we're going to talk about some changes in officiating that I think should be done. And those are some of the things I'll talk about as well. Probably more important than anything, this is even in AAU. I always tell officials there's two things you can work on, even in AAU. You're probably not going to run up and down the court as fast when you're doing a regular season game. You can work on game management and your mechanics, always. So the game management of the game, when you have an official out there that is managing the game correctly on both sides, all you want to do is coach then. You say, I can coach here today because I got, you know, Tyler Johnson here at my game and I just coach, you know. So those things are important. Um, and the rules. So now if you feel like a player violated the free throw lane line, and then I say, Coach, they can step in there on the release. The players on the line that's on the free throw line extended, they can step in on the release. You say, oh, okay. I thought we had to hit the rim. So now we got a better understanding. I know the rule. I gave you the information you needed to know about the rule, and we can move on from that. So just knowing the rule, But if I come up with something that's totally untrue, and then you find out about it, see, that's where we make our mistakes sometimes. One thing I can't teach as an assigner, as a clinician, is judgment. But officials have their judgment, but they can get better at it by watching plays, by having a good mentor and learning and seeing things of that nature. So that's another thing that we really can work on to help the game better.
So I think this kind of leads in perfectly. You're the president of Top Notch Officiating Camp, and you've talked a lot about things we can improve. So maybe, before we get into the last two segments here, let's kind of dig in a little bit. So, one, maybe what made you decide to open that company up? And then, let's break this up into a couple parts. Let's start the focus on like what do you feel we need to do for future officials to teach and strengthen and kind of build back the profession a little bit?
Well, it's got to be a teamwork all the way through. It's going to be tough because we have a lot of officials that are looking at this game as they don't pay enough. So the pay increase for high school, and I'm really talking about high school, it has to go up, especially in big cities like Illinois, big states like Illinois. We have a situation where we can get an official because officials are needed in Division III and junior college just as much as they're needed in high school. So why would you work for $80 a game when you can work a JUCO game for 190? And you'll be working with more experienced people and you'll learn more at that juncture. Now you can get an opportunity to go to a college camp and may get picked up in Division II, Division III, or even Division I, especially on the women's side. They're moving pretty fast. Now those pay raises go up even higher and higher. So those are one of the biggest keys that we gotta make an adjustment with pay increase. The recruitment. This year, the IHSA has started a observers program, and I'm a part of it, and 5 others are for basketball, and then they have it for each sport. So they'll give us a list of names where they want us to go observe officials. The biggest issue that I have with that is this: it takes 10 to 12 years to even get recognized to go to be a state final official, to go downstate. So we're talking about when you register, you get recognized. Those are 3 years within itself. Then in the 5th year, you can become certified. So that's 5 years. So you can't go downstate unless you're certified anyway. Now you can't even work the playoffs. So now we're talking after 5 years, you start a regional. Then you start the following year, maybe another regional, but you'll make it to the regional championship. Now you're talking the sectional, And then another year, the sectional championship. Then another year, the super section. That's 10 years right there. And are you even recognized to even go downstate at that juncture? Probably could possibly mean well be not recognized at that juncture. So we are losing younger officials because they can go work college instead of taking this long, lengthy time to get the opportunity to work a higher level game in high school or to even go downstate or work the playoffs. So that's one of our dilemmas we're at right now. I feel the training process of it. I've always thought that someone just starting to officiate should have a mandatory training of 3 years of camps. And they should go to as many camps as possible during the summer. But AAU takes its place in all of this. And I think that AAU could be a vital part in this with some AAU supervisors that have tournaments can also implement 1 or 2 courts for training and development. But that's up to that supervisor. That means that they wouldn't make as much money because we're training and developing. That means that some teams may not, I don't want these referees on my game, and I always have told coaches, I said, Coach, when you bring a freshman up to varsity, you think that coach, that young person is ready, or you get him opportunity. I say, I'm just trying to do the same thing here. It's a new official, just trying to give him opportunity. And that's all it really is. So we have to work together with that part of it. And the development of it is what we all been talking about all along. These officials have to invest in themselves. These officials have to really work hard at becoming a better official by reading the rule book. And then they'll get opportunities to be observed by certain people to get the opportunities to go to another level. So we're in a tough spot in Illinois with officials, because you have some people that started officiating, and then we got fans that are booing them and cursing them out, or they feel like they're being threatened, and then so they don't want to officiate anymore. So we gotta make some adjustments. We gotta make some adjustments to start recruiting and getting more officials involved. You look at a lot of basketball players, as you all know, no, everybody's not going to the WNBA or the NBA. Everybody doesn't even play college basketball. So if you want to be around the game still, maybe you want to be an official. If you want to be around the game, maybe you want to work the shot clock, because we're bringing in the shot clock now. And, we're going to be bringing in a lot of other opportunities, the table personnel. Maybe you want to work that. So me personally, I would love to have gone for the state to go to park districts, schools like you all have, and talk to students about this type of stuff and make officiating somewhat fun. It's a profession, but it can be fun as well. Because I know you guys, coaching is fun. A lot of times you wouldn't do it if it wasn't. So.
And I just want to hit on, before we go to our 30-second timeout, what do you think your camps and such can offer young officials? Maybe a little bit of a plug for what you do.
Well, I have the pleasure, the luxury, to have people in my camp that really supports me 100%. And that starts from the NBA on down. I've had for years, Danny Crawford, retired NBA official, spoke at my camp, didn't charge me a dime. James Capers spoke at my camp, didn't charge me a dime. Mark Davis is still coming every year, NBA official to this day, one of the highest top officials in the NBA at my camp, speaking to people, talking shop. And that's what it's all about. I have Division I officials that I've trained. Now they're Division I officials. They come back and give back. The NBA official, Benny M. Maru. Now he's in the NBA, he's in the WNBA, comes and give back. So I think that's the one most important thing. But at the same time, we have to have officials. The biggest problem with having camps, I see, is there's somebody else want to have a camp the same week you're having your camp. And now the officials got to make decisions. Or I tried to have my camp is the last weekend of June at Hope's High School, at Hope's gym on the west side, Hope gym on the west side. AAU is not going on at that time, but other people will have camps and there's AAU. So now, do you chase money or do you get better and pay money? to get better. You know, and it's a tough situation for some of these younger officials because they don't know exactly what to do, but a lot of them go chase the money, and they got to get away from that because they're not getting better because they're not, and they wonder why they don't get opportunities. This is one of the reasons why. And you'll be work AAU or part district basketball forever. So I think we have a lot to offer, but it's just you got to want it.
So as we get into our last two segments, the first one we call 30-second timeout. It's kind of your chance to run the show for a minute. You could talk about whatever you want, meaning it's something with yourself or your family or your officiating camps or something you want our listeners to know, or turn the tables on Todd and I and ask us a question. Kind of as Todd would say, your dime, your dance floor.
So one of the things I like to talk about, like I talk about my camp, I would think that you guys as coaches, I know Todd's coaching, and as mentors and people that are around students, you might want to take interest in coming to camps and having questions and communicating with officials differently than just being on the court. This is a great response right here we're having. This contact we're having right now, this dialogue is very important to me, and I think it's important to you guys. You wouldn't have had me on, so I think that that would be important as well. Getting to know people for who they truly are, and their passion and love for officiating, your passion and love for coaching and working with kids, and things of that nature. That's very important. That's very important to me. I have two sons and four stepsons, and my one son that's 28 is the one that played college basketball. The other one's my oldest son played baseball, but he has two grandchildren. And my granddaughter is in a play, The Wizard of Oz, in Oak Park, and she's the lion. And I took video and I'm watching her, and the way she told her story up there, it was so convincing, and I could tell by the crowd and even the other kids that was in the play. They telling a good story, and we have to learn about this as people. Getting together, when you're telling a story, make it right, do it the right way, tell it like it should be told, tell the truth too as well. So I think that we are starting to evolve where we're watching the younger people, because I know I am, and I'm learning from them. So I'm saying this to say, as older people, we can start learning from younger people and seeing what they're really looking for in life as well. I think the life skills that we can show them, but they're also looking for things in life. And I think sometimes younger people want to be heard as well. I heard an official talking in the locker room at the Derrick Rose shootout, and he was saying, how can I get better if my mentor / assigner is telling me that he would never work with me? He couldn't work with me as an official because I don't listen or whatever the reason may be. Instead of telling me some good things and then reincorporating myself and making me a better person as an official. So I think that we all are bogged up and kind of, well, this is how we did it, and this is how this is going to be this and that. And I think we got to make some changes along the lines with the younger officials, with the younger people, and bring it all together. I hope I'm making sense with this.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Last segment we call quick hitters, just kind of rapid fire questions, some fun stuff, some basketball stuff. I'm gonna add to this one a little bit. All right. Do you have like a signature move? If we got high knees right in the college level, we got like if you come on the court, is there like a habit or something you have? Oh, okay, that's Vern. We know he's out there.
As,
And
as,
then
an, as an official?
yeah, because
Yeah.
you see it all the time on Twitter. I forget his name. He's got the high knees before the game, and
Yeah.
there's some guys that everybody knows. And then the second part of that is maybe an official you enjoy watching at any level.
Okay, so I do a little workout before the game. So the players / the fans, especially when you're doing a college game, I'll pick a school like Governor State or St. Those guys, they see you bouncing and jumping to the beat, and they, yeah, you got it, ref, you got it. So you're bringing in a lot of fun into the game right then and there. But I'm really working myself out because I need to be ready to get up and down this court. So I have a whole plateau of things that I go through, slide drills, but this is all for me playing basketball. It's just, and it's the movement that I'm gonna be making on the court, the crossover, leg crossovers, back and forth, and all of that, running backwards, things of that nature. So, and I may be over there to just get my mechanics tight, violation, foul, just get prepared for the game because I want to be dialed in when I officiate, and I don't let nothing or nobody stop me from doing what I do every time I go out there. So that's my routine, and that's what I love doing. I mean, it's my preparation for the game. Got to be prepared. So yeah. And what was
Well, personally, before that, I feel like if I see that, that changes my mindset as a coach. Like, okay, this he's getting prepared to go to work. Whereas sometimes they come in and they show up and all right, you're like,
They're
okay,
sitting like laid back and
yeah, right, right. You're like, oh boy,
yeah,
here we go. I
I
mean,
can't.
I'll be honest. I sometimes play the game of out of the three, who's
Yeah,
because you can kind of tell by how they walk. Like you said, like you're like this might not they might be really good, but
right.
it's just like you said, all about appearance. And the second part was official you enjoy watching.
Well, my mentor was Keith McCullen. I don't, you guys may not have heard of him because of your time now, but he was an unbelievable official to watch officiate a basketball game. He met the eye test, first off, and then his mechanics were just so convincing. He had so much control of the game itself. I've heard coaches say, "Who's on our Keith on our game? I can coach tonight." And these are big games. These are Derrick Rose playing, and Jabari Parker playing, and all the top players in the state of Illinois playing. And it just, he was a gem to watch, man. He was unbelievable. And he was rule savvy. And at the same time, he was professional with everything he did. So that's my mentor, Keith McCullen. NBA was Danny Crawford. Um, because Danny would come back and work with us in the summertime in the pro-am leagues and things of that nature. And he would tell us, man, I'm gonna use that. So we may have a mechanic or something. He see us, I'm gonna use that. And that feels good to see a guy that's gonna be on national TV working the NBA championship saying he's gonna use something you did in the ball game, or something like that. So that felt good. Today, it's a young man named Randall Wells. So he's like my mentee, but he's moving up very fast, and he's a state trooper as well as a Division I official now. And just to watch him work, I see so much in myself when I see him working. And Benny Maru as well, who works the W and the NBA, he told me at like 12 or 13 years old, I want to be official like you. And now he's at that point in his career. So those things make me feel good, and think that it gives me a reason to continue to do what I'm doing. I tell you that much. Yeah. So
all right, so let's go to the playing days. Have a fun moment. What's a favorite moment from your playing days at Providence St. Mel in that beautiful sized gym?
the beautiful side, Um, I played for a guy, Tom Shields,
Mhm.
and he was an animated guy. So I got to think of this guy's name. I knew this was going to escape me. I tried to find his name. He was the leading scorer in '81 in Illinois. He played, can't think of his name. It escapes me. But he had me guard this guy, and I want to say he might have went to Glen Bard or something like that. He had me guard him. So you pick him up from one end of the court to the other end of the court. And he said, if he go to the bathroom, you go with him. And if I think of his name, I'll say it. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But that day, he had 5 points, and he was averaging 20 plus, maybe 30. And he was a heck of a ball player, and he played Division I basketball. And that was just a limelight for me. And after the games were even better because coaches like Tom Shields, teachers like Harvey Gross, these guys, they would take us out to eat. And home run in pizza was very popular back then. And we would go out to eat and they paid for it. They spent their money on us. So they showed the appreciation of them enjoying to watch us be student athletes. And I thought that was very important in my career. And it moved, and that carried on to my college career with my college coach, Rod Walton, down at Culver Stockton. And, he and I talk still today and things of that nature, but it just carried on. So I thought that those were big careers in my life. One game I had, but we lost, so I hate to talk about it really. We playing Providence, New Lenox, Walter Downey, and I had 26 points that game. And my father is emotional because he brought a busload of people from the west side of Chicago to watch me play. And it was just unbelievable. And yeah, so those are some good moments at Providence St. Mel.
Okay, head coach you like working with as an official, or it could be somebody that you have good interactions with. Somebody that does it the right way. Somebody when you're officiating, those games are fun, and you guys have a good relationship, professional refereeing and coaching.
Several. I've had opportunity to officiate some of the best games possible in the state of Illinois, being the state championship downstate 3 times, to the city championship 10 times, and the Catholic League championship once. But I talked to Joe earlier about Tom Lavatino. The first time I met him, he was at Lincoln Park, and I issued him a technical foul. So he called the assigner, Mal K-Son, and said, I want Vernal all my games, because he gave me a technical foul and he gave the coach from Simeon a technical foul. So he's not scared of us. So I want him on the games. So that was a good experience for me. That kind of upped my confidence in officiating public league basketball at the time, because that's a tough conference to officiate here today as well. But Rob Smith, he always had good questions for you from Simeon. And at the end of when he retired, he and I had a little short conversation out at Bennett at the Side Collide. And I said, man, we went to war a lot of times with each other, but respectfully, you did your job and I did my job. And he said, yep, and I want to thank you. And I said, I want to thank you. Still today, I deal with Mike Oliver differently than anybody, because a lot of people don't know, a good friend of mine was training Mike when he was in high school. He was working him out. And that friend of mine, I started helping him work Mike Oliver out. And so we go back a longer way. So when Mike get in his mode, I have to remind him of stuff like that. Then he'll somewhat get out of his mode. Yeah, but he's a good guy to work for. A lot of people may not think so, but he's doing what it takes to make those kids better young men. And that's what's important to me more so than anything, Yeah. And even Matt over at St. Ignatius, his bench personnel, his assistant coaches are way tougher than him in a sense. They just want to coach. They want to coach and they want to talk to Vern. I said, listen to you, Matt, but I'm not listening to these guys, But it's all in fun at certain times of the game. Now, when it gets serious, they know that I'm on point and they should be on point. So make sure you call Utah and it works. Because if Utah doesn't work, it's not Vern's fault, But yeah, but it's been a great experience. High school basketball, I'm in 24th season, and I work with a bunch of great guys, and especially down in Pontiac, all the coaches have been great. For Peoria, all the way back this way. Each coach has their way, Tom Kleinsmith doing an unbelievable job at the fall prep, but he wants something too. He got to ask. But he talks to me. It's so friendly. Like, you call me V. You don't even say V. That's travel, V. That's a hand check, V. And he might be right at that particular time. But once again, I was talking about how the player can still handling the ball very well. He's not losing the basketball. I try to let him play through it. But we have great conversation afterwards, and that's what it's all about. It's not nothing personal. As long as it doesn't get personal, it's good with me. Yeah.
All right, so we're also known during this segment to ask very hard-hitting questions. So what's the favorite Christmas dinner food?
So my wife gonna make a mean egg casserole in the morning. So that's what she'll make in the morning.
What I'm talking about.
some biscuits and things like that. And then we'll celebrate later. And I don't eat pork or beef. So I think the turkey and the dressing, if we go to my stepmom's house, we'll either have that or she can make it here. So, but we'll be eating that casserole and that she'll make a pecan. She's doing something different this year, she told me. But it's with pecans. And she know I love pecans. So if we'll be eating that all day.
There you go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm right with you there on the turkey. I could go
Yeah.
turkey stuffing
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
All right. Thoughts on the high school shot clock for officials?
For the official,
Yeah.
I think this is giving officials the opportunity to be able to work the next level. It's going to be, it has to be a training tool that we have implemented through the state that those officials have to look at that tape, the video, and learn from it and ask questions first off. See, in high school, even with the shot clock, we still have a 5-second count with the dribble, closely guarded, and no dribble, closely guarded. A lot of officials are not aware of that because they'll watch a college game,
Yeah,
and see that they're only counting with the hold, closely guarded. So there's a lot of things that need to take place. Officials need to really watch video and learn these processes. I think it's very important for the player as well. And I'm thinking you may ask me that question, but I want to say this now while it's out there. I've officiated high school games where there have been top players that go to college, and then I catch them and have them in college, and mainly point guards, and they're unaware of the shot clock in Illinois. So now we got the shot clock in college, and the kid from California that had the shot clock all of his 4 years of high school is aware of the shot clock situations. And some of our kids here in Illinois was missing out on playing time or making some vital mistakes in games because of shot clock violations and things of that nature, or taking a desperation shot when they, So I think that's the important part for our student athletes to have the shot clock, especially ones that's going to another level, to the next level in college to play. But officials, this is good for us. It's another tool that we have to learn about. I think that the table personnel is going to be just more important as the official itself. So the training for the table personnel who's in charge of the shot clock is going to be key as well. So I think it's a very good step in the right direction to help our players, and speed the game up. We have some teams that like to slow the ball down, and I think that that's a very small amount now because everybody's getting the ball up and down the court. But they just got to make better decisions now, and then help them with their decision making, speeding the game up.
And then lastly, we always ask this to coaches, but I was be curious for you what you think. What's maybe a next trend or something you see down the line for officiating?
Oh, so this first one is something that came to mind. So we had a situation, it wasn't a game I officiated, but the game was over. Now they're shaking hands and the fight started. I would like to see sportsmanship, handshaking before the game. Get it over with.
Yeah.
And now players can go in their directions.
Yes.
I had a game one time where it was a timeout call at Mary Catholic, and the players had to go to their bench this way and the bench that way. Now they bumped into each other. Now pushing started, but players came off the bench. So now we got ejections. See what I'm saying? So all those different things could be tweaked, if we make those type of adjustments like I'm talking about now. So shake hands before the game. We have nothing else to say after the game, win, loss, whatever, and we'll go from there. That's one of the things. I think that the restricted area will be coming eventually for the RA, what we call RA, but the block charge situations in high school basketball, because we brought the shot clock in. So I think the restricted area will be coming next or eventually soon. One of my things that I think that we should do, the inbounding or the administering a free throw official should beacon in the substitutions. You can't do anything with that official ministering the inbound or the free throws anyway. So he or she has the ball. We don't let subs in until we hit a horn. Beat them in. We don't need the trail official to turn around, tell them hold them up, tell them to come in. Now their head is over here at the table and looking at subs, and an altercation could be happening in their primary area. So I think that's one of the things that I would like to see. I call it, at that time, that official is in charge of the game. He's controlling the situation of the game at that time. So I just think that should happen. Pay increase. I think that's going to be important in order to keep the veteran officials that are able to still work, the mid guys that's looking to go to college but will come back and work instead of just doing college only, and the new officials that are getting an opportunity to go to college because they only meet the eye test. They already meet tests. So I think pay increase would help. And those are some of the things that come to my mind that needs to come right behind the shot clock situation.
Well, and the administrative official makes sense because they're looking right at it. They can see it. Like I don't know how many times you're like got a sub, especially and it's loud or whatever, and it's hard to just turn around and see. Make a whole ton of sense.
Yeah,
Um,
bring them in. Even a timeout. If he has the ball and coach asks for a timeout, the official that's closest to the table or the coach should take the timeout. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So if you say, give me a timeout, the official with the ball normally blows the ball to say timeout. Or can we have an official at the table that's closer to him to take the timeout? Because we've done that, but it wasn't national federations. I'll take it. Because you're right there. Why make all the movement, and make the adjustments because you recognize the timeout as the guy that's away from the tape. See what I'm saying? So yeah, so we need to make some adjustments, and I think that we will. We got a new administrator for IHSA, so he will do all the things that he currently needs to do. He's working on a lot of different things to make happen for us. Chris Schwartz is his name. So Kirk Gibson is still involved, but it's a lot of things that needs to happen, and I think that they're starting to go in that direction.
Well, we can't thank you enough. This was a fascinating episode. Me and John were typing back and forth like this is awesome. It's really a different perspective than what we've had. I think head coaches can learn a lot from the interaction and referees' perspective, especially like you said, to kind of be on the same page and communicate. And okay, I understand that, right? Because I think that's the gap a lot of times, the understanding of where
Yes.
each is coming from. We can't thank you enough for taking time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I thank you guys for having me on. I enjoyed it. This is like having a discussion, a round table, and I think it should happen more often than not. And I think that it would help the game itself, but it definitely will help the student athletes because now, when they're really kids, sometimes think officials are against them, and they're just really not. Or think the worst word an official can hear is cheat. You're cheating. And a lot of times we've heard it, because we may know the coach or we may play basketball growing up with the coach or things of that nature. And it's just not, I have not found it to be true at all,
Right.
So I think it's important that we get a round table and have better discussion and talk shop about all these different situations that we're dealing with.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the After the Timeout podcast in partnership with the IBCA. Please be sure to rate us on whatever platform you are listening and give us a 5-star rating. For more show content and updates, please follow us on Twitter at After the Timeout. As always, thank you for listening, Tune in next time for more content on the court, off the court, and anything in between.